to the gold now, because India's growing appetite for gold exchange traded funds has pushed the trade deficit to a record high of just under $1 billion in month of January. The value of gold imports almost tripled to $12 billion from 4.1 the previous month. Inflows into gold ETFs nearly doubled to over 24,000 crore rupees in January. And if you're looking at overall imports that we saw in case of silver as well have been on the very, very positive side as well. Talking further about Indian imports and the kind of ETF numbers that we are looking at is joining us is Sachin Jain, Managing Director at World Gold Council. Sachin, I thank you so much for joining in. First of all, your sense on the import numbers, because that is today's number and almost everybody seems to be reacting to this. Financialization is one part of it, but do you think India is smart enough to own gold, not just in the physical sense, but in sense of ETFs as well?
First and foremost, a big thanks, Manisha, for getting me on the platform. We're truly honored to be on a platform as always. You mentioned, the true story of today is what's the impact on CAD. And I'd like to give some hardcore facts. The average that we've seen Jan to January over the last 4 years has been in the tune of about 40 to 45 billion dollars and about 668 tons. What we saw this year, the volume that has been imported is about 621 tons. Now, that's materially low in terms of volume, and that's very, very, very important to be understood in the overall scheme of things. But because of what's happened to the gold value, this is about 12 to 13% higher. So I think there is, I mean, of course, it's picked up the headlines today, but I would not anticipate a big panic around it. It equals out. And the important element is, as you yourself mentioned, that the large inflows has happened in organized trade in ETF. We've also seen a big surge in the gold monetization via the gold loans. So a large part of the gold that got used in 2025, 26 in particular, has also helped financializations within the system of organized play. So I think that's a big plus.
I remember, Sachin, all of last year, you've been pushing for ETFs on how that is very, very important to understand the overall numbers. I know World Gold Council did so many campaigns as well. Do you see it actually showing into the kind of numbers we're looking at right now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, last year, let me share some numbers with you. And what we saw, 1st January 2024, the AUM was around 40 tons. 1st January 2025, gold-backed ETFs, the AUM was about 56, 57 tons. The AUM on the 1st January of 2026, we were about 97 tons plus, touching 100, which did touch on the 5th of January 2026. So big inflows there. But if you look at 40 tons of, or let's say 37, 38 tons of inflows that we saw this year, 2025, that might not be so huge, but big sum from the base of the gold-backed ETFs. Now, I think as we go forward, ETFs are really at the cusp of even further growth. And while, Manisha, you're right, on your platforms, I did talk about the strength of ETF, it being a regulated product, transparent, backed by physical gold. And interestingly, what we've seen and analyzed that even in the current times where we saw prices going up and down, we saw that the institutional investors have been very sticky. Most of the investors have been on long-term play, and the retail investor in general is started to know what a gold-backed ETF is all about. So I think times for gold-backed ETFs, as they get more popular, as also the Provident Fund regulator has now allowed investment in gold. I also believe that the insurance fund regulator will consider it. I think with all of these institutions opening up, I think ETFs will get more and more stronger in the investment formats in India.
Sachin, for the longest time, we've been discussing on when and how will gold become as a mainstream in sense of an asset class. And it finally has done that the way we've seen it perform in last 12 months. How would you look at India's growth story? Because we've been buying physical for a very long time. And now the financialization, every country has its own economics and dynamics. Would you say India has found the way it has bought into gold in all forms, in all senses in last 2 or 3 quarters?
Well, actually, historically, Manisha, our analysis says that every time there's a 1% increase in disposable wealth in the hands of Indians, we see a 0.9% increase in the demand of gold. Now, what we've seen particularly in the last year, that what was under stress was jewelry demand in terms of volume, but value-wise, of course, it surpassed over 15%. But what we saw is a phenomenal growth in the investment area of gold, both in physical bar and coins, but also in ETFs and digital formats. Even digital gold has done very well. Now, the fundamentals of India depend on the GDP size and how much is the disposable wealth in the hands of every Indian. And that is changing for better. We're not a matured economy like various other markets where things are only shifting. But if you look at the consumption pyramid of India and Indians, there is new wealth that's coming in, and people who aspire to own gold in any format, be it jewelry, be it bars and coins or investment area, that pyramid is having more and more wealth. And I foresee that in the coming time, well, where we're talking about the per capita income moving from $2,700 to over $10,000 in the coming time, it's going to have a very significant increased consumption of gold. Now, with India getting more and more digital, our median age become 29 and digital savvy, I think consumers will be very comfortable in owning assets on their mobile phones. And hence, products like ETF, which are easy, sort of regulated, you can bank on them, will be here to grow.
Oh, well, absolutely. From sovereign gold bond when it was available to gold ETFs, digital gold, give them gold in some sense and India is ready to buy it. And why not? And the kind of profits that we've seen come in for that as well. Sachin, thank you so much for joining in and making sense of what it really means for India in sense of economics and the kind of growth, of course, that we're looking at in the mainstream asset class as the gold has performed itself to be. On that note, it's time for a break, but don't go anywhere because on the other side, we will be talking about food finally. Totals Company's founder Arjun Veer Singh will talk about launch of their latest healthy snack and a lot more.